Hi, we're back. We just realised that we'd somehow managed to press pause, so we are starting from the sheep's cheese incident, which was our intermission break.
Yeah.
And John.
They're actually a jam band, this sheep's cheese.
Really?
Oh, no, it's a string cheese.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
And John is going to now talk about Vijay Iyer.
Yeah, the Vijay Iyer Trio, Accelerando. Great band. With Stephen Crump on bass and Marcus Gilmore on drums. This is their second release on the Act label. And they cover here a very unusual kind of song, really, for a jazz group to cover, which is The Star of the Story, which is by Heatwave, which was Rod Temperton's band. Gorgeous version of it.
And that, in fact, is a beautiful version as well.
Yeah.
The original.
Yeah.
That's really great.
Always been one of my favourite songs. So to see that pop up on a record like this was amazing, really. Really interesting. Yeah. Nice cover by Anish Kapoor as well. Definitely recommend. It's out on vinyl, this as well. I didn't realise when I bought it on CD.
Some great drumming on that.
Yeah.
Some great drumming. Okay, we went from that to Ascension, John Coltrane. The original mono UK release, which is very exciting, and particularly very exciting as it was actually given to me for nothing.
Yeah, those things don't happen.
A couple of months ago. So I really have to just share the. There you go, the original HMV. Look at that, lovely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure people know a lot about this album, but it still is a pretty shocking album when you listen to it. It's a real kind of assault of sound, but sort of still sounding remarkably kind of committed, fresh, and significant.
Certainly was. Very easy to cover as well. So he went from a record with quite a few people playing on it to one with only one person playing on it, and played the track Breathathon off Rahsaan Roland Kirk's Natural Black Inventions Root Strata, which is basically Rahsaan playing by himself, although it doesn't sound like it most of the time. Occasionally accompanied by a bit of percussion. I think this is a beautiful record, actually. Really one of my very favourite by Rahsaan. On Atlantic, produced by Joel Dawn.
We then had a listen to the Eugene McDaniels album, Outlaw, here on a twin CD alongside Headless Heroes of the Apocalypse. Outlaw was Gene McDaniels' first solo album, and I was listening to it actually today just because I'd been watching Grecian Thunder's video and I noticed he'd just bought the album. And I guess our connection was that we always have to have at least one track that features Ron Carter on the bass, and he features on electric bass on this album. And we listened to the track called Cherry Stones.
Sounded great. Then just was it's a gorgeous tune, really. Played Goodbye Port by Hat from Charles Mingus's Mingus Ahum. This is a UK budget release actually on the CBS Realm Jazz label, who also put out some of Tony Oxley's early records that I featured in a solo post a little while ago. I mean, it's just the most gorgeous tune, Goodbye Port by Hat.
Absolutely beautiful. We then listened to a track off this CD, which is called Red Hot and Riot, and is basically a compilation of different covers of Fela Kuti tunes. And there's a series of these Red Hot releases, which are all in aid of the AIDS charity, which I think is called Red Hot.
Yeah.
And we listened to the track Water No Get Enemy, which has a stellar selection of musicians, including D'Angelo, Macy Gray, Femi Kuti and Positive Force, Roy Hargrove, and Nile Rodgers. Very good CD, highly recommended.
Yeah, sounded great. I haven't heard it for a long time. There's another, was a few actually in the Red Hot series, but there's a really nice one with Brazilian music called Red Hot and Rio, which has got some really nice stuff on it. So then from something about West Africa, moving eastwards towards Ethiopia, and I've played the track Malatu off Malatu of Ethiopia's. I think this was the first record to be released outside of Africa. He was a kind of band leader, composer, still around now, made a record a couple of years ago on the Soundway label, very nice kind of funky but kind of quite gentle kind of music, featuring some kind of, you get a real feeling of some kind of Eastern scales in here as well, and Eastern kind of tonalities in it. Lovely music.
Maybe slightly kind of, I guess Gustus Pablo made me think of a little bit in some of the sort of tonalities, which made me think of reggae and made me think of the stalag rhythm. It's a classic Jamaican reggae rhythm that has a particularly Eastern sounding horn line on it, and we listened to Sister Nancy basically emceeing over that rhythm on the track called Bam Bam, which is really fantastic.
Yeah, sounded great actually. And really kind of broken up rhythm as well. Then went for, same with reggae actually, went for a Prince Far Eye track called Hairdressing Salon, which is on the Hit Run record label, which was Adrian Sherwood who set up On You. This was a label he had before that, and I think he was actually licensing stuff from Jamaica rather than putting his own thing out. It's a great track actually, with a very, very, very strange bass line on it. It sounds like it's kind of almost detuning as it's playing.
Detuning every time that he plays a particular note.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I guess it's the Roots Radix playing on this track.
I think we felt, because John Coltrane was still in the ether, we needed to play. Well, we didn't need to, but it seemed to be possible to play the Byrds 8 Miles
No,
High.
we needed to play.
We did need to play it. We had to hear it. This is a mono-vinyl 180-gram sun-dazed reissue of the Byrds' Fifth Dimension album, and it sounded great, and it was great hearing Roger McGuinn's kind of out there 12-string guitar work. It sounded really good.
Really good. And staying with the kind of folk rock, moved into a bit more into country rock and played a track off the Flying Burrito Brothers' last of the Red Hot Burritos record, which is a live album, and played the track Devil in Disguise with some incredible steel guitar playing, pedal steel guitar playing from Al Perkins on it. This was recorded after Graham Parsons left, and it was a particular favourite of John Peel, who was a UK radio DJ. I seem to remember him playing it twice in a row once on his programme. So anyway, Flying Burrito Brothers from 1972 on A&M Records.
We went from some US country folk to some UK folk, and this album, which is Nick Jones here staring up at you, and the album Penguin Eggs.
It's quite looming there.
He's looming. Nick Jones, a singer-songwriter, guitarist. This album from the early 80s. I hadn't really heard about Nick Jones. There was a very interesting BBC 4 documentary about him. He basically had a very serious car accident quite soon after making this album, and has just recently been making a sort of return to the stage, playing with his son, because he now is unable to play the guitar as he used to. The album has a really distinctive sound, very kind of intimate, quite sort of John Martin influenced in the guitar styling, and a particularly kind of just kind of quite a lazy delivery in the way that he sings. Very intimate, really nice. Definitely worth checking out. Penguin Eggs.
Yeah, it sounded really good actually. I think it's probably 30 years since I last heard that. Something like that.
Yeah.
Then next up, largely because we were talking about the Grateful Dead rather than actually listening to them, played the version of Dark Star of this Henry Kaiser record. Henry Kaiser's a guitarist from the west coast of America, works in improvised music, also works with Wadada Leo Smith and the band Yo Miles, who do versions of electric kind of Miles material, and it's from the album called Those Who Know History Are Doomed to Repeat It. And on the Dark Star track, he's basically playing with what was Bill Frisell's band at the time, with Hank Roberts on cello, Kermit Driscoll on bass, and Joe Barron on drums. Really nice version, actually. He's also a deep sea diver, and there's a documentary, I think, of Henry doing some deep sea diving. Good version, interesting. Put lots of material out. Good stuff, actually.
We then had a listen to a track from this album, which I showed on a previous video. I guess it sort of has sort of some interesting kind of sonic effects. It's got a very nice yellow vinyl. It's this Finnish band called Geltal, Hjaltalin. Yeah, it wasn't actually sounding as exciting as I remembered it.
But it's on yellow vinyl.
It's on yellow vinyl,
So
and
show
it's a
your
very
colours.
nice cover. Show us your colours.
Yeah, for Willow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
And again, no real connection at all actually, but just you don't need much of an excuse to play Neil Young's on something from Neil Young's On the Beach, and played the track for the Turnstiles. It's possibly my favourite Neil Young record, and it's also got that gorgeous not inner sleeve, but inner printed inside of the sleeve. So it's a kind of inner sleeve, but it's not really.
It's the inner sleeve.
Inner sleeve, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, love this record.
Yeah. And then my last record of the night was a track from Spirit's Future Games, which I think is a very different kind of Spirit album. I mean, most of their albums have a pretty original kind of sound. This one, I think, is largely Randy California. It's almost a Randy California solo album, and it's almost as though, you know, he's got the telly and the radio on all the time in the studio, and you keep getting little bits of intermission of sound and bits of the telly, bits of the radio. But it's really cleverly put together, and a very kind of just a very otherworldly experience to listen to. And we listened to the last track on side 2, which is called The Journey of Nomad.
Most albums by Spirit are really worth listening to actually. They're all, even the ones after Randy California left, are kind of interesting. No particular reason, possibly something to do with the guitar, I'm not sure actually, but I then finished up with the final track of Mary Halverson's most recent recording with her septet, and fantastic record. I mean, it's kind of, I know Roger Coleman's a big fan of Mary, and I just think she's a really original talent, actually fantastic guitar player. She doesn't solo very much on this record. I mean, it's mostly her compositions that shine through on here. This is called Illusory Spirit, and Illusory Sea, sorry, it's a Mary Halverson septet. It came out on the Firehouse 12 label, who put out some great stuff by Tyler O'Bynum as well. She was trying to invoke the kind of spirit of Robert Wyatt on this track, and even though there's no singing on it, it definitely does that, I think. So also out on vinyl, but it cost a fortune to mail it from the States, so I ended up buying the CD. Very highly recommended.
Great. Well, that's it.
I mean, lots of shouts really. I mean, I've not been posting very much. I've not been commenting very much.
Posting at all.
I've not been posting at all actually. Largely because of work and so forth. But also this Google Plus thing, jokes aside, is a real pain actually, and I think it's causing a lot of people to rethink. But the VC's great. I'm enjoying lots of videos. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there seem to be a lot of people putting stuff up. Good to see Prog and Jazzman back, and Fatback Funk's around, and obviously Big Star 1000, Chris 1427 Basket, John Coltrane 68.
Brilliant stuff. Yeah.
Really great stuff. And you know, Grecian Thunder, I've sort of been discovering him. Very interesting character.
Yeah. And I thought Blake actually nailed the whole Google Plus thing. I thought his comments were bang on the nail actually.
So yeah, thank you for watching. Stay in touch. Let us know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.
Good night.